It is one of the most haunting images in American criminal history. A 6-year-old girl with golden curls, bright blue eyes, and a sparkling tiara. A tiny beauty queen whose face became a symbol not just of innocence lost, but of a justice system that stumbled, failed, and left an entire nation with questions that have never been answered. 30 years have passed since that terrible Christmas night in Boulder, Colorado. 30 years of theories, suspects, documentaries, false confessions, media storms, and broken hearts. And yet, as 2026 arrives and the 3-decade anniversary of one of America's most infamous unsolved murders approaches, something extraordinary and deeply significant is happening inside the Boulder Police Department. For the first time in a generation, investigators are not just reviewing the case. They are actively, aggressively, and with the most powerful forensic technology ever developed, chasing a killer who is hidden in the shadows for 3 full decades. The story begins, as it always does, on December 26, 1996. The day after Christmas in Boulder, Colorado, a wealthy, picturesque college town nestled at the foot of the Rocky Mountains. 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey was found strangled to death in the basement of her family's home, sparking a decades-long manhunt that would captivate the entire nation. Her mother, Patsy Ramsey, made a frantic 911 call that morning, telling police she had found a ransom note demanding $118,000 for the safe return of her daughter. But JonBenét was never missing. Her body was found by her own father, John Ramsey, in the basement wine cellar, 6 hours after police had arrived at the house and somehow failed to search it thoroughly. From that very first day, the investigation was plagued by catastrophic mistakes. The crime scene was contaminated, and early clues were either overlooked or discarded entirely. Family members, friends, and neighbors were allowed to move freely through the house. Critical evidence was mishandled, and the Boulder Police Department, a small force that had rarely dealt with homicides, found itself at the center of one of the most high-profile murder cases in American history, spectacularly unprepared for what it was facing. Tucson.com, Facebook. The years that followed were a painful parade of dead ends, controversies, and heartbreak. Suspicion fell almost immediately on JonBenét's parents, John Ramsey, a wealthy businessman, and Patsy Ramsey, a former beauty queen who had entered her daughter in the pageant circuit. The couple endured years of relentless public suspicion, media scrutiny, and the quiet devastation of being treated as suspects in their own child's murder. Then, in 2006, Patsy Ramsey died of ovarian cancer, never knowing who killed her daughter, and never fully escaping the shadow of suspicion that had followed her for a decade. In 2008, a critical breakthrough seemed to arrive when DNA testing on JonBenét's clothing identified a male DNA profile that did not match any member of the Ramsey family. The 2008 round of testing formally excluded the Ramsey family as contributors to the mixed profiles found on the victim's clothing. A finding that finally, after 12 years, publicly cleared the family of suspicion. But identifying what the DNA did not reveal what it was. The unknown male profile remained exactly that, unknown. And the case went cold again. City of Boulder. What makes 2026 different? What makes this anniversary feel charged with genuine possibility rather than routine commemoration is the nature and scale of what is now happening inside the investigation. Boulder Police Chief Stephen Redfern confirmed in a December video statement that detectives had conducted several new interviews, as well as re-interviewed individuals based on tips received, collected new evidence, and tested and retested other pieces of evidence to generate new leads. Techniques and technology constantly evolve, Redfern said. This is especially true with technology related to DNA testing. These are not the words of a department going through the motions of an annual case review. These are the words of a police chief who believes in 2026 that the technology finally exists to do what no investigator has been able to do in 30 years, identify JonBenét Ramsey's killer. Tucson.com. Tucson.com. The new submissions to forensic laboratories have been described by the Boulder Police Department only as multiple physical objects and trace material, and they are being examined with DNA sequencing technology that simply did not exist when the original evidence was processed in the late 1990s. Among the items being examined are some that carry enormous potential significance. Sources familiar with the investigation say the cord used to bind JonBenét's wrists and a section of the paintbrush handle that formed the garrote have yielded trace cellular material described in an internal report as minute but reproducible, sufficient for YSTR and mitochondrial sequencing, two methods that can clarify whether DNA originated from a single male source or from multiple, possibly related individuals. In plain terms, the murder weapon itself may finally be speaking. After 30 years of silence, the instrument used to take a 6-year-old child's life may be about to give up the identity of the person who held it. City of Boulder, City of Boulder. Then there is the tool of forensic genetic genealogy, the same revolutionary technology that identified the Golden State Killer in 2018 after more than 4 decades of anonymity, and that has since cracked dozens of cold cases across the United States. John Ramsey himself has been vocal about the power of investigative genetic genealogy, saying that leaders at advanced DNA laboratories have informed him that the technology only requires a minuscule sample to yield results, and that he believes there is a 70% chance his daughter's killer could be named within months. IgG is a very powerful tool. Just use it, Ramsey said. If they do it and they come up empty-handed, at least that way I can say thank you. You've tried everything you can so far. John Ramsey is now 81 years old. He has spent 30 years fighting for answers. His voice, when he speaks about his daughter, carries the unmistakable weight of a man who is running out of time, and who knows it. YouTube former El Paso County Sheriff John Anderson, who has been deeply involved in pushing for new testing, told NewsNation that investigators are now closer to solving this case than we ever have been in the past. He and the team working alongside him have raised nearly $100,000 through a GoFundMe campaign specifically to fund genetic testing, offering to pay for the entire process if budget constraints are an obstacle. The commitment, the urgency, and the resources being brought to bear on this case in 2026 are unlike anything seen in the 3 decades since JonBenét was killed. Forensic genealogists are standing by to extend any identifiable DNA profile into family trees, the same process that has solved case after case across the country in recent years, and investigators have been candid that the next several months could determine whether the case finally moves toward closure or recedes once more into the realm of unsolved mysteries. Tucson.com, City of Boulder, Boulder. Police Chief Steve Redfearn put it clearly and without hesitation. The killing of JonBenét was an unspeakable crime, and this tragedy has never left our hearts. We are committed to following up on every lead, and we are continuing to work with DNA experts and our law enforcement partners around the country until this tragic case is solved. This investigation will always be a priority for the Boulder Police Department. Those words, "will always be a priority," carry a different weight in 2026 than they have in any previous year. Because for the first time, the science has caught up with the crime. For the first time, the tools exist that could turn that unknown male DNA profile into a name, an address, and an arrest. The garrote that ended a child's life on a cold Colorado night 30 years ago may finally be ready to reveal its secret. Facebook, JonBenét Ramsey deserved justice 30 years ago. Her father, now 81, has spent every one of those 30 years fighting to get it. And in 2026, with new DNA evidence being processed in some of the most advanced forensic laboratories in the United States, with forensic genealogists ready to trace any identified profile through generations of family trees, and with a Boulder Police Department more committed and better equipped than it has ever been, the answer to the question that has haunted America for 3 decades may finally be close. Somewhere out there, a killer has been living freely for 30 years. Science is coming for them. And this time, it just might be enough.